Hello, everybody. I guess I am live right now. It's Dan Klein. Welcome to the DCC meeting. Normally, we're very punctual. We'd be starting right now on the minute, but we happen to know that some more people are trickling in. So we will start officially at 7:05 p.m. So in about 5 minutes. So stay tuned.
Travis, are you in twice? I see two squares for you. You're muted.
Is there video maybe that's more interesting than my face that people could look at? Or is that just impossible?
Go to gallery view.
Go to gallery view.
It's perfectly symmetrical, Dan. I don't know if you intended that, but
you're live. You know you're live, right? Hey, everybody.
What I should do as people kind of trickle in and out. 5 minutes. I'd love to be able to play a song right now for the group, but I don't really have the means. So,
no. Oh, I do. I got Gordon Lightfoot right here.
No.
Are we seeing everybody here? Where are Juliana and Liv?
Oh, hey guys, we're live. The world is seeing us.
Good. All right, guys. Well, we're starting in 3 minutes, so sit tight. Starting in 3 minutes. Listen to your own music.
Technical complications. So, to email add Cruz. Oh man, why are we going down? Oh man.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the DCC meeting for spring 2020. I hope that you can hear me. I do not believe I'm on mute, although somebody just threw that in the chat box. Hopefully you guys can hear me. This is the first DCC meeting that we've ever held remotely due to the circumstances, obviously. At first, we were actually contemplating canceling the DCC meeting, but we had a flood of questions, and we thought that this might actually be a great opportunity to give some answers. First and foremost, hello, obviously, everybody. Welcome to. Oh, hold on. That's faculty and staff who are present who will attempt to answer as many questions as possible with the knowledge that there's some questions forthcoming that we'll need a little more time to get answers on. Long story short, people have been doing quite a bit of work and making great efforts to transition this quarter to be able to teach you guys and to deliver as much information and support as possible. But still questions remain, and it makes perfect sense. So that being said, you're going to hear from a number of folks. If anything is awkward, like the technology, please bear with us. Again, we're doing this for the first time. I just want to point out in advance of getting anything else going that there is at least one silver lining to this meeting, which is no Chartwells. And I only bring that up because it means a healthier meeting at the very least. Anyways, we love and care about you guys very much. In advance of everything else, I would like to kind of kick this to Travis Duffield, who is going to be answering some of the questions or giving you some information as it pertains to technical specs. So without further ado, Travis, please take the mic.
Hey, everyone. So I just want to talk about technology, access to resources. I know there's a lot of questions about software, systems, stuff for class. So I'm going to show you in a second where to find that. I want to answer some of the questions that were quickly submitted beforehand, though. People have asked how you get access to all that software. You've only seen stuff for 365, Adobe, and Zoom. I'm going to show you, we have a resource that we've compiled for SCA students so that you hopefully don't have to go to a bunch of different places. So I'm going to share my other screen here really quick. There we go. So this is SCA Central in D2L. Hopefully everyone is familiar with this. Right at the top, you will see two sort of pinned, this orange bar, two pinned topics. The first one is an FAQ from CDM. This is the same at the CDM website, which I'll show you in a second. The next is this one right here. This is a knowledge base or a repository of documents and quick guides and tutorials about how to use software, how to access stuff, how to address issues that you might have. So a lot of stuff that we've got emails about is Creative Cloud. So for instance, if you need help getting access to Creative Cloud, this steps you through how to do it all the way through to make sure that everything's working. And then if you have issues, this, I want to encourage everyone to make note of this or copy it or whatever. If you have any issue at all, D2L, Panopto, Adobe, email, whatever the issue may be, or even a question, we want to encourage everyone to use this email, scaavsupport@depaul.edu. It is monitored Monday through Sunday so that if we're able to answer your question, we're going to try. This will hopefully streamline some of the information sharing process for folks to, that's nice, my computer just logged out, I think. This will streamline some of the information sharing process so that you don't feel like you can't find the information. we want to make it as easy as possible, so that, frankly, you can do the work that you need to do, so that you're not wasting time trying to get help with something that we recognize and understand. You all didn't have to do this before. You had access to it in the labs. You didn't have to think about it. So we want to try on our end to make it as easy as we can, given the circumstances, for you all to do what you need to do. I also just want to say briefly, if I can log back into my computer. That there's been a few questions about Zoom. We're using Zoom for a lot of stuff, and the security of it. There are issues. However, I will just say that all the faculty are taking the appropriate measures to secure your Zoom meetings for classes and stuff like that. There will be some guidance on that knowledge base for you all to follow in terms of settings to configure for Zoom, so that you don't have to worry about people Zoom bombing your meetings if you start hosting them together, like with other students. So, and the other question I just want to answer briefly is it's a two-part, and I'm going to turn it over to Rob for the second part of this. There's a question about how final projects requiring the use of limited access software, so the ones that have 90-day or 60-day limits, how that's going to be handled. I will just speak to the tech side. Right now, we don't have any guidance from the manufacturers that they're going to extend it. We're a little bit unique in that we're on the quarter system, not a semester system. And so dates are kind of weird for us. All I'll say is that we're in communication with those folks to see what we can do. But as of right now, we don't have anything as far as the software part of it. I'll pitch it to Rob. Maybe he can talk a little bit about the class side of it.
Yeah, it's real simple. With Adobe in particular, the end date is at the end of May. We are highly aware of this. We've been discussing it. Conversations are happening between DePaul University Information Systems and Adobe, and we're trying to come up with a solution. Once we come up with a solution, even if it's May 31st, we will come up with options on how we're going to deal with this. So I just want everybody to understand that this is a daily conversation. This is not something like, oh, we'll worry about it on May 30th. No, 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 no. We're all freaking out as equally as you are.
Travis, did you have any more that you wanted to say, or do you feel good right now?
I don't. I think that's good. If there's other specific tech questions later, maybe we could answer those. But I just want to reiterate, use that email address for everything, scavsupport@depaul.edu. And even if we're not the area that it needs to go to, we'll get you to the right area. Again, in the hopes that you don't need to remember 100 different things as all this information comes at you. We know and recognize that it's a lot. So hopefully this will streamline that for you and make it a little bit easier. So you just send an email to that email for whatever the issue, and we'll try and help you out.
And
Yeah,
just a note, we're going to attempt to send out, or we plan to send out minutes following the meeting. It might take us a day to compile everything, but we'll include all of that information there. And sorry to cut you off, Rob. What were you going to say?
I can't stress enough that everyone should be using the SCA AV support at DePaul.edu. If you're having a technical issue at home, don't email your teacher, email the support line, because the support line is constantly being monitored and your teacher may be teaching a class while you send the email. So there's a triage system set up. There are multiple people and multiple layers. So that email should be everything. Even if you're having a D2L issue, go to that email. Make it simple. Don't make it complicated for yourself. If you're having a problem that's technologically related, that is the email, regardless of what it is.
Excellent. And again, rest assured that you guys will get all of this information in an email if you are signed in with the DCC. We'll send something out again as soon as we can after the meeting. Next up to speak, normally I see this as just kind of very helpful and generous. Each spring quarter, Gary Novak will come out as director to kind of run a town hall meeting of sorts. And this year, it's not just a kindness. I feel very grateful that Gary's going to serve in this capacity because, again, there were a lot of questions that were asked of us. I credit the heads of the DCC who gathered all of these questions together. We're going to attempt, again, to answer as many as possible with people coming in throughout the course of Gary's Q&A, or his town meeting, I should say. And hopefully we'll be able to answer all those questions. Any questions that go unanswered, you can email us afterwards, and hopefully we'll have more information soon. So without further ado, I cede the floor to Gary Novak.
Thanks, Dan. I just wanted to start before we get to specific questions and the like. We're all in this
I credit
together.
the heads of the DCC who gathered all
Different
of these
perspectives
questions
on being in
together.
this together, but
We're
we're
gonna
all
attempt again to
in the
answer
same
as many
boat,
as
trying to
possible
make
with
the things
people
stay afloat and
coming
get
in
to the
throughout the course of
destination that
Gary's
we all want to
Q&A
get
or his
to.
town meeting, I should say. And
At least as far as the
hopefully we'll be
faculty
able to
and
answer
the
all those
administration
questions. Any
goes
questions that go
within
unanswered,
the
you can
school and
email
the
us
college.
afterwards, and hopefully we'll have more
The
information
primary
soon. So without further
concern,
ado,
our
I
primary
cede the floor to
focus
Gary Novak.
is the safety and
Dan.
well-being of the students.
I
as
just
well
wanted
as
to
their
start before we get to
educational experience.
specific questions
We've,
and the like. Is
we were kind of,
we're all in
I
this
don't know if
I credit the
blindsided
heads
is
of
the
the
right word, but
DCC
we
who
were kind of
gathered
blindsided
different
just like you
perspectives on
were
being in
together,
this
when it
together,
was
but
like,
we're all
okay, we're
in
going
the-
all
in the
online
same
as
boat,
many as
trying to
possible
make
with
the things
people
stay
and
afloat
over
coming
the
in
course
throughout the
of
course of Gary's
basically like
Q&A
2
or his town meeting, I
weeks,
should say.
and the entire
at least as far as
faculty
the
in
Hopefully we'll be
the
able to
school
answer
was
all those
meeting
questions.
every
Any
day
questions that go unanswered, you can email
to
us
discuss
afterwards, and
how are
hopefully
we
we'll have
going to
more
do this.
information
primary,
soon. So without
Analogy
further
I
ado,
use are the
I
movie
cede the
was
floor
like
to
trying
Gary
to take an
Novak.
aircraft
is
carrier
the
and
safety and
turn it
well-being
on a
of the
dime
students.
and make it
I
go
just
in
wanted to
one
start
particular
before we get to
direction.
specific questions
And there was a lot of
and
meeting, a
and
lot
the
of
like.
discussion. This
Is
wasn't
we're
a
kind of we're all in
I
this
don't know if
together.
blindsided is the right word, but we were quick, kind of okay, yeah,
different
sure, we'll do
perspectives
it.
on
We
being in
immediately
this
looked
together.
at,
We're all
okay,
in
courses,
the
we figured
same
out
boat, trying
which
to
are the
make
ones
things
that
stay
are
afloat
viable
over the course of
online,
Gary's Q&A,
which are the ones that
entire
we
faculty
couldn't
and
offer online
administration
every day
goes
because of that.
Email us
college,
afterwards,
And
and hopefully we'll have more
we view this
information. So
also
without
as
further ado,
a
I cede the floor to Gary
temporary
Novak.
situation.
the
Hopefully,
safety and well-being of the
uh,
students.
and make it
I just
go
wanted to
in
start
a
before we get to
direction where
specific
hopefully more on the
questions
temporary
and
side than the longer term.
discussion.
But this was
we
just
were
a kind of a
we're all in
temporary
this blindsided is the right word, but
state
we
of
were
things.
kind of
Say, yeah,
different
sure, we'll do
perspectives
it.
on
We
being
go
in this
back to
together.
all
We're all
courses
in
and
the
figure
same
out.
boat,
Gary,
trying to
excuse
make
for a
things
moment. We're
stay
having an
afloat
audio
over the
issue.
course of Gary's
Yeah, it's loud.
Q&A,
It's
which
a
are the
truck
ones
outside my
that,
window and Skokie backing up.
at least as far as the faculty
No,
offer
there's a different
online
audio issue.
today.
And just give Taylor a
Discuss
moment to
how
try to
We view this
primary
also
say all
as
of
a
that beautiful, eloquent
temporary.
stuff all over because you nailed it perfectly. That was the take that we wanted, but there was a hair in the gate. So you just need to nail that performance one time. Just let Taylor give us the update shortly. Stay tuned out there, all of you. We're dealing with this, and we should have it dealt with momentarily. So
I'm the guy that does it on the first take. You get me to the sixth or seventh take, I've lost it. You got to throw
Oh my
something at me. Otherwise, I'm not. It's like, you know.
Yep. So
I,
just to let everybody,
what did we lose? What do I?
you
It
have to just
looks like the problem was that because of the delay, there was an overlap of 30 seconds of Dan still going while you started. So they were hearing both of you.
Okay.
it's better
And
now.
someone's saying it sounded like a Bob Altman movie.
I love Robert Altman. If I could have been in a Robert Altman movie, I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah, you actually are.
They're saying it's better now. So I think if you just like pause between people and wait 30 seconds and then go, that maybe that's the problem.
And what they just said was to start over from the beginning and again to nail it perfectly as you just did, Gary, because I thought it was beautiful. So hit another home run. Go ahead.
All right. Take two. Where should I start? Okay, take three. Before I get into answering the specific questions that you all have asked, I just wanted to say that the way we see this, we're all in this together. We may be coming at it from different perspectives, student, faculty, administration, but we're all in the same boat, trying to keep it afloat and get to the destination that we want. And as far as the faculty and the administration concerned, our major concern, the thing we're focused on first is the safety and well-being of our students and also the educational experience. We were kind of blindsided by this, just like you were in terms of the move all online for spring quarter. We basically had about 2 weeks notice, if even that. And during that time, the faculty were meeting every day, multiple meetings, trying to figure out how to make the move to all online for programs that in the past had a minimal online presence. And in those discussions, we were really focused on the quality of the offerings. So there were some classes that we thought were very viable online, and we went ahead and offered those, and some classes which we thought there's no way in heck we can do this online and give the students the experience that they deserve, and we ended up canceling those, not offering those. I think considering everything, I think it's the classes that we are offering are going to be quality experiences. We've brought together a lot of additional resources to make it a worthwhile educational experience. I know some of you have probably taken online courses in the past at at DePaul within CDM, and it was the course online model, which was basically a 3-hour recorded lecture that was being given in front of a live class. We're not doing that. We really have thought about the specifics of every class and tailor the classes to best deliver them online, and brought support in terms of the tech and the software, the stuff that Travis referred to earlier. So our goal is to do best we can, provide a quality educational experience. And the other thing, which was important too, is in many cases, some of these classes are the first time that they're being offered online. These are classes that maybe for the first time you're taking all of your courses online. This is going to require communication, not only communication from us, but communication from you. This tonight is the start of that. But as the quarter progresses, if there are any issues, any concerns, you've got the email that Travis talked about from the tech side. You should email in your instructors if you're having problems, and do not hesitate in contacting me. My virtual door now is always open. Feel free to email me if you've got any questions and concerns, and I will get back to you. One advantage of me being stuck in my living room in Skokie is that I don't get as many distractions in terms of getting sidetracked when I'm at work. So I think I'm doing a pretty good job responding to emails in a timely fashion. I'll turn it over to our to Juliana to get to the questions, I guess.
Awesome. Yeah. So the students on the DCC board collected around 30 questions from the students via an online survey. So a lot of these are going to be first person perspective, but they're not coming directly from Liv and I. They're just from students. So yeah, if we want to get started, we just have about 30 to get through. So the first question is pretty broad, and it's just, should I attend school this quarter?
Well, I mean, I kind of, I guess, touched on that a little bit in my kind of opening statement. We all think you should. I mean, we're here, we're offering these classes, and we're offering what we think are going to be quality educational experiences. If we didn't think we could do it, we wouldn't do it. I mean, the one thing I know from being here for years and knowing the people that teach the classes, the faculty, they're going to not pull punches. If they think something's not going to work, they're going to tell me it's not going to work, and they're going to say we shouldn't offer it. The decisions made in terms of the offerings of the courses were made by the faculty. It wasn't made by the administration saying you have to offer X number of classes or else. This was all a faculty-driven process. The people in the trenches that have to teach these classes making these decisions. But I think on a certain level, it's also a personal decision. Where are you, right? And that may, an undergrad may have a different experience or a different perspective on this than a grad student. The only thing I would say is if you are thinking about not taking classes this quarter, have that conversation with your family if that's appropriate. Also, please talk to financial aid and other resources at DePaul to find out how just taking a quarter off is going to affect those aspects of things. But as I said, the people on the screen now and the people teaching the classes this quarter think this is a worthwhile experience, even though it may not be an experience that we are uh, used to.
Great. So the next question we have is, why are we paying full tuition without the opportunity to use DePaul's cinema equipment and without the opportunity to learn cinema on hands in a classroom? Although we know it's not the CDM faculty's decision to change tuition, who at the top can we turn to with these questions?
Well, as far as this, I guess the middle part of that question, in terms of the hands-on filmmaking experience, as I mentioned earlier, if we didn't think the classes could be taught hands-on, we didn't offer them. I mean, if it was a class that was requiring a hands-on experience, a perfect example would be advanced camera technologies, right? That's the class that the cinematographers, anyone who's interested, learns how to build the cameras. Well, there's no way in heck we could do that online. So again, we didn't offer those classes. We were going to offer them later. In terms of who to contact at DePaul, that's kind of above my pay grade. You can reach out to the upper administration as if you want. But the other thing to keep in mind too is this is just one quarter of the time that you're here, right? It's a glitch. It's something nobody anticipated, and we were kind of thrown a curveball and had to do what we had to do. In terms of tuition, what I do know, if there was an email, actually not an email, it was I think it was a Newsline article that came out today, basically an email that was sent to everybody. The university is freezing tuition next year. They're not raising tuition, which historically every year they bump it up a little bit. So they are freezing the tuition. Also, there's going to be more money available in terms of financial aid to help students that need it. So the university is doing something, but again, as they kind of say in the military, that's above my pay grade in terms of the big picture on that.
Great. The next question has kind of already been answered on DePaul's email, but I'll ask it anyway. Will there be any chance that the school can waive the late tuition fee to allow families more time to weigh the costs and benefits of a taking class this quarter?
Yeah, that one I would actually direct you to student accounts. The tuition office. They're the ones that I would contact about seeing if the university will be waiving fees or anything like that. Again, out of my area of expertise.
For international students who need to renew their visas in their birth countries, the cancellation of flights poses a major issue. What will happen to a student's status after their visa expires, and who can they go to figure that out?
Again, this is the answer I would actually give to a student who came to my office with this question, because I'm not an expert in visas. They should talk to ISS, which is the International Student Office at DePaul. All the international students have an ISS advisor who know their situation much better than I would in terms of the specifics of their visa and all of that. So that's the person that they should reach out to, and I would reach out to them now.
Great. Will DePaul still hold the Premiere Film Festival this year? Many students have been working hard to meet the deadline, and we're hoping it could at least be postponed.
Yeah, well, we are. The plan, actually, we had a meeting earlier today. The plan is to postpone Premiere into the fall. As of now, we're pushing the deadline to July 31st. And the rationale behind that is, from experience over the years with Premiere, a lot of people spend spring quarter finishing in their films and then submitting them. It turns out that most of the films come in within a few days of the final deadline. So there's a lot of work going on. Well, obviously, if we don't have access to the labs, to the sound studios, that's going to be a challenge. So the plan is to postpone it to the fall, move the deadline to midsummer. Students who graduate can still submit to Premiere. So even if you're no longer a student, you can still submit to Premiere. You're still eligible to win the awards, and eligible to attend it. So that's where we are with Premiere. And the reason, because I'm jumping ahead, there was a question somewhere along the way about streaming it. And we thought, trying to do a streaming version of Premiere in the spring isn't the same as the actual Premiere. And we'd rather have the real experience, the experience that everyone is accustomed to, than trying to do a streaming version of it.
The next question is, why are we canceling graduation instead of just postponing it? It's extremely important to some students, and I think that the ceremony should still be honored even if it is at a later date, possibly after fall quarter next year. Just
I really don't like cats, but that's neither here nor there. Does anyone like cats? That's a joke. I know I'm going out in public, but it's my familiar. He's just left. Anyways, as far as graduation goes, I think actually, again this morning in Newsline, they've actually they're looking at actually having an in-person graduation at a later date. So they're thinking about they basically, what I read today is that they're going to move it to a date where we can actually have people gather. Not sure what form it's going to take. Again, at this point, I'm getting, what you've gotten, which is at least the decision to not cancel it and do virtual, which is what they initially emailed out. So it does seem like actually the upper administration is actually listening to people, and now they're going to do an in-person celebration.
Great. The next question is, I worry that I am at a disadvantage because of my family's poor internet connection. How can this be addressed?
Travis, can you mentioned something earlier, so I'm going to turn this over to you.
Yeah. So we will post a document on that knowledge base. Several internet providers, including Xfinity, are offering free internet access for households that need it. So we'll have a link to that information on the knowledge base that you all can look at.
So the next question is, could the school potentially use this time to do construction work on the basement of 14 East Jackson? Most film students and student employees think of this area as their home base, but many of us feel unsafe given the low level of security there, with the lack of security cameras in the new quality control room of the cage, and the fact that the doors leading to it are clear glass with no curtain and only lock from the outside. When will this be addressed?
All valid concerns. I think we have to wait to see when we can actually get back in the buildings, because the buildings at this point are shut down. I think the only people at the Paul at this point will probably be a skeleton crew of public safety and facility ops at this point. So yes, it's something we can address, and yes, the security issues are something that we want to make sure that everyone's safe. But now may not be the best time if we can't get into the buildings. Maybe this is something for over the summer.
Great. Is there any chance that CineSpace will reopen this quarter?
I'll punt to John on this one, even though I know the answer, but I'll let John speak to it.
Unfortunately, there's not a good answer here. No. Due to the social distancing and sheltering in place, all of CineSpace is shut down. All the shows have shut down. Everything's on hiatus, so to speak. The Dick Wolf shows wrapped early. What I can tell you is right up until the point when we had to vacate the premises, we've been working on some pretty cool renovations and making the whole facility much bigger and better for when we do open, to be a better facility for students. But at this point, and as everyone knows, this is a very fluid situation. So, we're getting updates kind of week by week. But if I were to guess, I would say my staff probably will not be walking in there until late May or early June. We have discussed using a May 15th date to inform students, because I know theses are coming up during the summer, and we're looking at what potentially is going to happen over the summer. Blue Light also being, and the independent studio. So we will have an update for you guys in May, but as I think everyone knows, this thing kind of is changing week by week, and we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but at the same time, not promising something that we can't deliver.
Great. The next question is, are any productions still allowed to use facilities or equipment? And will we be able to use this equipment over the summer?
Well, right now, again, as I've mentioned earlier, nobody has access to any of the buildings. So right now, no. If things, again, the social distancing is the restrictions are on people getting together are loosened, access to gear and facilities over the summer is definitely doable. So yes, it's again, assuming we're not under the same restrictions, access to equipment and over the summer is definitely possible.
Great. So this question is about the last update we had on equipment, or one of the last updates we had. So it's, what equipment from CineSpace will be available at the cage? If the situation does not improve or worsens, will the cage still be open for students to check out equipment 3 weeks into spring quarter?
I'll handle the. Well, John, did you want to take it? I was basically going to say.
All I'll say is that, I mean, obviously, just logistically, we're not at CineSpace, so there's no way of transporting any equipment from CineSpace to the cage. So, in theory, that might sound like an idea, but it's not plausible right now. Now, having said that, as things evolve and we're on the downside of this bell curve, we're open to discussing that. But I would say it's a pretty safe bet. Nothing's going to change between now and the end of the term.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're basically, at kind of the mercy of the current state of affairs, right? If things loosen up and we can go back into the buildings, access to the gear is at the cage is possible. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I mean, if you kind of look at, what the kind of the future holds, I mean, we're basically in shelter in place in Illinois until April 30th. So that third week of the quarter, access to the cage is not going to happen. A lot of people are thinking that shelter in place April 30th is probably going to extend through May. So the access again to the cage is probably not going to happen, barring a major turn for the better.
Great. So a question that we just got off of the YouTube Live is, will production designers eventually get a prop closet again?
I can take that. Right now, Lawrence Kim is the head of our production design program. We have, between the scene shop and what the renovations that we're doing in the loading bay, there is space that can be dedicated to any number of purposes. We've shifted gears in terms of what can physically be done on the stages because our class load is so heavy now. It's unrealistic to have a lot of augmentation of the sets on a week by week basis when there's such a heavy class load. So that's an ongoing discussion. Obviously, anyone that knows me, this is close to my heart. We are definitely wanting to up our game in production design, but I want to loop in Lawrence with that and some of our other faculty members that have been involved, and the students for that matter. So yes, there will be some existence. We just hope it's a little bit more organized and it serves the purposes of the classes better, and other projects.
Great. So this is our question about LA Quarter for Matt Quinn. Will the current situation with LA Quarter overlapping into summer negatively affect next year's applicants?
For summer, is that what they're asking about? Like what
Yeah.
affects summer applicants? No. So now we are planning on offering LA Quarter this summer. Of course, everything's contingent on whatever's happening with the state of California and with the guidance that we're getting from the university. We're planning on bringing out 3 different cohorts. We're going to have some students who are left over from the spring quarter that we're giving the opportunity to go out this spring. That's one cohort. we're going to have the animation cohort that we traditionally bring out in the summer. And then we will also have all the other majors of the School of Cinematic Arts that we traditionally bring out in the summer as well. So we're planning on trying to bring as many students as we possibly can manage. But the applications that we would receive would be treated just as we would any other time. We're not going to like take fewer students in the summer because of these other cohorts.
So another question that we just got in from YouTube is, if CineSpace doesn't open by May or June, what will grad students do about their thesis projects?
Well, it really kind of depends, right? Again, we're dealing with the unknown. We have a plan in place, which is, John mentioned May 15th. If it looks like the summer shoots are a possibility, then we would open up for gear reservations on May 15th, and the plan would be for the thesis shoots that they would put on their gear reservations pretty much for the entire summer, right? So they get them in place. If it turns out that we're not able to open the doors up at the beginning of June, we would push the shoots later on into the summer. And if we need to, fall is an option. And if we've already had some discussion with students, if they want to defer until next year, that's also a possibility too. We want to work with the students, and John's got us something to add.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. I mean, and this goes back to the whole, we're all in this together. I mean, this is unprecedented. It's not like we have a crystal ball and we know more than you. We're going to work to get through this. Now, that might take 6 months, it might take 12 months. I think in terms of what the next academic school year has, I'd like to believe everyone in the program, faculty, staff, and students, is going to acknowledge the fact that we need to be flexible and we need to kind of work through things. So grad students can finish their theses, undergrads can get access to gear, blue lights can get finished. So I don't think there's one clear answer for any of this, but I can just speak from our facility and most of the production staff that I'm working with, is that your well-being and you getting through the program, finishing your projects, is paramount. And it might take a little bit of a few audibles here and there to kind of make that happen, because this is not normal, and we're not gonna ignore that.
Awesome. So these are our last couple of questions before we get into production and class questions for the administration. And they are CineSpace student employees going to be paid while CineSpace is closed? And how can people get into contact with administration regarding tuition concerns?
Can you repeat that question?
Yeah, so the first question is, will CineSpace student employees be paid while CineSpace is closed?
Yeah, we have a, believe it or not, even though that the facility is closed, our student workers are scheduled, and there are a lot of non-production specific things that we're working on. There's a lot of upkeep that we've been able to actually pay more attention to now, whether that be updating policies or the student production handbook. We're actually upgrading web checkout, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done with that. So yes, we are abiding by school policy, and we still have our staff working as per the student employment office.
Great. And the follow-up question that was also from YouTube is, who can people contact regarding tuition concerns?
I don't have the answer, but I can get it. I mean, I'd have to ask. I mean, you could send it to me, but it's not. I have no say over the tuition. You could even send it to the dean of the college, David Miller, but David Miller doesn't set the tuition. So, I don't want to say the president, because I don't know if the president is really the person to send this to. So let me find out who's the person that you should voice your concerns before I send you in a direction, and you end up, sometimes when you talk to the wrong person, you just spinning your wheels.
Great. Yeah, we can include that in the minutes and move on to production and class questions. Liv.
Cool, thank you for that. So the first question under production is, we are encouraged to be constantly creating. being at home, what are the best ways to try and get more professional work or create?
You know what? I'll take that. Since this all started, film faculty from all over the country have been getting together on these amazing pages to share ideas and so on. So in our chat, I just shared a Google Doc that's called DIY filmmaking examples, where people are making movies from their laptop, where they're using not only found footage, but they're making movies about their laptop. Some of which have gone on to major film festivals like Ann Arbor, Cleveland, and so on. Telling a story is telling a story, and everybody's got a camera and everybody's got a microphone. So anyway, if we can share that Google Doc, that would be great.
Sandy, do you want to chime in on some of this? Because I think a lot of what we don't really always talk about is pre-production and planning and networking. Just because you have lights and a camera, that's not everything production. But I'll kind of hand it over to Sandy a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, what Gary was saying at the start of our talk about how any class that specifically had to depend on physically using equipment was canceled, and that we feel confident that the classes that you have are all classes where you will still get a full learning experience from the class, even though you're not using the facilities at CineSpace or having access to the cameras specifically at the campus location. But there is a lot to be learned about production, of course. So there's plenty that we can be doing to move forward in that direction. Dana has her hand up. So Dana.
I do. I just want to say to everybody, I love that you want to be creative. I think that we need to find ways to keep ourselves busy and make stuff and, fulfill ourselves in that way. But I also want to say to people that it's okay if you don't want to create right now, that this is a time that maybe being productive, being that pressure of being productive all the time can be a little bit crushing. So if you feel like all you can do is do your classes and that's pretty much it, I would say that's okay.
And I would just go back to where John was heading was, a lot of the time what I'm finding, and obviously I'm new here, but looking around and seeing the work that you all have been doing so far and hearing the stories here and there from students and faculty, I'm seeing that there's a lot of focus that some of you are putting on the technical aspect of the cameras and the lighting and the physical production work. And while that's great, and some of you will be obviously very concentrating on those aspects in your career, it's really important to learn the other parts to this puzzle. While you as a director or a cinematographer might think, well, my focus is on the actual production, there's so much that you can be contributing and learning in the pre-production process. Even as a professional 20 years from now, you will need the pre-production process in order to be able to better direct, better light, better work the camera on the set. That it's important to go through that step. And then it's also important to learn the post-production, even if you don't have a desire in your life later to be an editor or a sound designer or a colorist. It's important to learn how those things work and affect your projects. And what I have seen is that there are people who plan their productions and they're not maybe giving a lot of focus to those parts of it. And this happens in the real world all the time. People go out, they plan their shoot, and they kind of they wait till the last minute to bring the editor in, and they don't really think through the post process early enough. And one thing that I'm looking to do in the fall, as we sort of reset some of our processes, just in the paperwork that you submit to the production office to check out gear, we will be putting more focus on how much detail did you give to your pre-production planning? How much detail did you give to your post-production planning? So now is a really great time to be thinking about prepping and also how you'd be finishing those projects, not just your hands on the camera. And also one other side note is, can you be creative? Not everybody has a smartphone, I understand. Not everybody has a camera at home. But if you do, if you even have something small, it's still the same process to learn on a different piece of equipment. And then when you get on your hands on the bigger stuff, you can apply those same learnings to some extent, you know?
Yeah, a couple things related to this. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Sandy about pre-production. You know, for instance, if you've got a shoot that you're planning on doing at some point, right? This is a perfect opportunity to do creative pre-production. It's not just budget and scheduling. You know, it's working with your production designers. It's coming up with lookbooks, other things that are creative that don't require going out and shooting. So that's something to keep in mind. Creativity, pre-production can be creative. It's not just, again, budgets and scheduling. The other thing, and this is actually from Pete Biaggi, is that the professional shoots aren't even happening now, right? So it's not just DePaul students in this boat. It's everyone in the city of Chicago that works in production. So as far as that's concerned, you know, Pete's suggestion is, you know, you could do stuff to build your reel, right? If you have a DSLR, even if you have a phone, getting interesting visuals that could actually be something that could be part of your reel is something you can do, right? And if it turns out that it's not something you like, you don't have to put it on your reel, but there are things you can do that are visually interesting that could either be test shoots or things that, again, because of the quality of them, that could be something that goes on your reel that that helps you.
I would also add one more thing to that same line of thinking. You know, I've been, like we all have, been soaking up information on social media, and I'm sure you have all seen some of the goofy stuff that's going viral that people are doing out of their boredom, right? And some of it is super creative. People have gotten together with 50 friends and recreated scenes from Les Mis where all of them are interacting with each other. I saw a dance being choreographed by choreographers all over the world, and it was a fluid dance with so many different dancers, and you never missed a step, but none of them were in the same town. And I think that this is going to be something that will come out of this crazy mess that we're in the world, is this new way of looking at entertainment and arts. And I think you'll see, I'm on a chat group with producers that have all their work has stopped. Every TV show in the country has stopped. Every movie has stopped, and they're all chatting. And some are saying, hey, if you have someone who can do a shoot in their living room, we can use our technology to share that with the client, and you can still make your Doritos ad, right? So there are ways that you can be creative, and now is your time to shine, because you will be the entrepreneurs that come up with the next thing that is how we do this. You know, it's a really good time to be creative if you take your head out of the standard way of doing it.
I'll just add one real quick thing to that too, is I just had a conversation with Alex, the president of Cinespace, yesterday. And, you know, what are we all doing right now? We are ingesting stuff ridiculously. Like, people are going through seasons of things. So when we come on the other end of this, the appetite and the need for content is going to be ridiculous. So coming up with ideas, packaging them, you know, pitching them, fine tuning them, whatever you need to do to kind of create stuff, that's on the other end of it. The faucets are going to come back on, and it's going to go nuts. So, like, that's another outlet to look at too.
Yeah, one last thing I want to, well, two things related to this. One is, and I've said this even in my classes, watching content for us is not just screwing around, it's research. So the other way to view this time is it's in a time where you can actually, you know, kind of feed the muse, watch content, come up with ideas. And the other thing, and again, I'm speaking from my own perspective, writers, you have no more excuses. So think about that. You know, all the distractions, all the things that you got to do. The only thing you got is that kind of the monster in the box kind of thing. You got the computer, and you gotta write that story. And one other thing I want to say, just to going back to the tuition concern, I feel bad not being able to give you a specific answer, right? And me not being able to give you a specific answer, saying I'll find out, is not me not hearing you. to be honest, if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. So I will find out who are the person or people that you can talk to make a case for um, them to reconsider. I can't make any promises. Again, that's not in my decision purview, right? But I will get you the names of people you can connect with to make a case, not making any promises. But in terms of results, I'm making promise that I will get you the names. But the other thing to keep in mind too is using the example of commencement, we're going to do virtual. Now they're thinking of doing something in person. For that, you never know. You know, there is an old saying that the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So I will get you an answer, I promise.
Awesome. We only have about 5 questions left, so we'll just get through these. What will be happening with all of the grant recipients and the organizations that are managing these grants, specifically the people who received grants for spring quarter?
In the case of like the undergraduate production fund, film fatales, inclusion in the industry, obviously, if we're not shooting, we can't do anything about that, right? So I mean, in terms of spending it, right? Because the way those grants work is they're for this fiscal year, and our fiscal year ends June 30th. So if you're not able to shoot by June 30th, what we're going to do is if you were awarded a grant this year, you will get the grant next year if it's for the same project, right? So if you've pitched a project to the undergraduate production fund, you were awarded a grant this year, you were unable to shoot it because of what's been going on with COVID-19. If you're going to apply next year for the same project, you will automatically get funding. If you're going to apply for a different project, hey, I got a different idea, well, then you'll have to make that pitch. But if it's the same project, you'll get awarded the money. No competition.
Great, thank you. So the next question is, what are some ways that I can get my work seen if all DePaul screenings are canceled and all festivals are being postponed for the year?
I'm open to suggest to everyone that can chime in on this. I mean, what I would say is this. That's going to be a challenge for everybody, right? A lot of the festivals are not not happening. One of the things we have talked about, even separate from this, right, are other screening opportunities besides just premiere, right? So that is also a possibility. I don't mean in-person screenings, but nothing says those kind of screenings can't be online streaming events. And that's, conceivably something. I'm not going to just drop it in the DCC's lap, but if the DCC wanted to try to do something like that, we would try to support you on the tech side. I got Travis, I got Taylor, a bunch of faculty are into this, that we could try to help make that kind of event happen.
I wonder, could we can look into, this is so fluid and we don't know what the fall will look like. Should a festival get pushed or something change, we could look into doing screenings at the school, or, like once we're back, if it's not the premiere at the Music Box, maybe there's other ways we can get the films out.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I'm in the same boat too. There are films that I've worked on that have gotten into major film festivals that are really, really exciting, and guess what? They've all been canceled. And there have been some festivals that have gone online. For example, Ann Arbor last week was all online. South by Southwest is going with Amazon Prime to do some online stuff, but it sucks. It sucks. I mean, I'm really bummed out about this. I wonder if the DCC wants to think about maybe certain things we can do now. I'm just throwing this out. I'm not saying we should do this, but why can't we do a quick 48-hour film competition that's all desktop cinema? And the issue is we need to get enough students to be interested in this, where we give you an idea Friday night, and then by Monday it's due, and then we screen them. I mean, nothing is holding us back from sharing each other's work. But the issue is, how do we come up with a plan? What do we want to do? What do students want to do? And so we can come on Zoom. I can share a screen. I can play a movie. So we've got the technology to do it. You guys have to tell us what you want to do and what you're interested in.
Right. Yeah. To be honest, we do kind of have a somewhat a solution or an idea for this that we'll be talking about at the end of the meeting. So great feedback. The next question is, how are office hours for individual instructors going to work, especially appointments in which critiques are necessary?
Well, Robbie, since you've got a
Sure.
critique-based
No,
class,
I will say what I'm doing. I'm doing my critique synchronously. I'm using multiple solutions. So I'm using Frame.io. I'll be using Zoom. I'll be using Microsoft Teams. For me, I think this is a great opportunity for us to understand that the world that we're living in now is the world that post-production people live in on a daily basis. This is nothing new for me. I work with directors via Zoom all the time and have for years. So my work is not sitting in a crew. My work is working with a client. I've worked with clients all over the world. So this is normal for me. So for my students to understand that in post-production, this is the world you'll be living in, this is a great opportunity. We're getting all of this free software that we never had access to before. We're learning how to use it. So I'm making sure that my students have that. My office hours are the same. They're on Zoom. You come on in, we have a conversation. My critiques are going to be, I'm doing as many different ways of critiquing as possible. But especially in the commercial world, when I do commercial stuff, I don't see anybody. I don't go anywhere. I get the stuff, I write it, I get a critique, I get notes. So I'm actually really excited about a lot of this because this is giving us an opportunity for our students. Like CineSpace is the real world for production. Well, the world that we're creating now is the real world for post.
and as far as just office hours, just regular standard office hours, all faculty should have scheduled, office hours that would be Zoom meetings. I've already had some, and the same thing goes for advising appointments. Faculty members who are advisors should have scheduled advising hours, and they'll be conducted via Zoom. And if you don't want to show your video and just you don't have to, but Zoom seems a good format to do that rather than playing phone tag. I will say though, if you do have an instructor who has not posted office hours, you have a faculty advisor who's supposed to have advising hours and they haven't posted them, let me know. I'll make sure it happens.
Great. So the last question we have here, in response to some things that have been said in the past few minutes, students are putting a large emphasis on the equipment access because they feel like equipment access is largely what makes DePaul's tuition worth the price. Students are hoping that faculty will back us up once we go to administration with our concerns. It would be nice to know that faculty are reaching out with support for us as well. Can we CC anyone on email so that we are ensured to be taken more seriously?
Well, in terms of the equipment side of things, I mean, I've already mentioned that. I mean, so yeah, I completely understand. I mean, the with our we're different than English, right? In English, they have a certain expectation when they decide to come to DePaul for an English degree. People who come to DePaul for a film degree came with expectations in terms of gear and facility access. That's part of the deal. I've already expressed that to the upper administration that it's you can't use kind of the same. Well, it's just an English class now. It's online. Not for us. So as I said, I know where you're coming from in terms of if you want to email somebody and CC anybody on it. I don't know. To be honest, you can CC me on the email. Go ahead and do that. I don't, in some respects, I think I would hope a student emailing somebody would get serious consideration, and you wouldn't have to put me on it to get them to take you seriously. John, you unmute.
Yeah, I'd also like to add, I mean, we're not unique in this situation in terms of not being able to get 100% of what we quote unquote paid for or what we've enrolled in or what we bought into. I'd like to think that you bought into SCA because it's in Chicago, which is an amazing town. It's access not immediately right now, but after you graduate or the people you're in class with or you're Zooming with, it's the package of what you bought into. It's being involved in a community that's on the rise. It's got quarters in LA. It's got people coming in from all over the world. So we're all in this sort of temporary, bizarre state, but it's temporary. Like we'll get on the other side of this. And I think if you can just stay the course and do what you can to keep busy right now, what you bought into will come to fruition. It's not right now. It's what's at the end of your degree. Now, I understand for you graduating seniors or for grad students that are finishing up, yeah, it's a raw deal right now. I'm not going to bullshit you on that, but you got to look at it on a larger scale. Like, where do you go from here? Everyone's going through this right now. It's not unique to DePaul. So I think the more that you can kind of add more to your bag of tricks, come up with a plan, and be ready to go gangbusters when we're on the other side of this, you might get a break that wasn't going to happen before. So, keep the faith and just keep plugging away.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to say too is, as soon as, I mean, John wants to get back to CineSpace. I want to get back to CineSpace,
Yeah.
right? So as soon as we can get back there, we're opening up, right? I mean, as long as we can ramp up, get the place ready to go, we're not going to delay. So this is not going to be like, oh yeah, we can go back in June and we're going to wait till August to open the doors. We're going to get there as soon as we can get there. The other thing is, I was going to say a little bit what John said too, in terms of being a raw deal for a graduating senior, right? Because if you're a freshman, I know it sucks not to be able to take the classes that you want, but you will have next year, right? You got 3 more years. For graduating seniors, this is your last quarter here, and this is what you're getting, which is not what you envisioned. It's not like any of us envisioned. But if, again, a lot of this is up in the air, but if we start to get back to some semblance of normalcy in the summer, we have ways to give graduating seniors access to gear over the summer. So if you had that project you wanted to make before you walk out the door, we will make that happen for you. All right. You got to reach out to us, because I'm not going to, it's going to be, I can go by the case by case how it can happen. And the same thing goes for grad students as well. So, I mean, I'll tell you right now, this is one way it could work. All right. But again, we'll deal with specifics, right? So just because Gary said doesn't mean it's the fact, let's talk specifics here, right? But let's say you are supposed to graduate in June, right? And right now we're not having, walking is going to not happen in June. We know that it's going to happen at some other later date. And you want to make a film, what you could, once we open back up, all you would have to do is defer your graduation date to the end of the summer. And what we would do is we would enroll you in a 0 credit hour independent study over the summer that would give you gear access, right? You could make the film, you would get the Paul insurance, you get access to the gear, and then you get the degree at the end of the summer, which in reality, that's probably what everyone's going to do. I mean, you may get your degree in the mail if you graduate in June, sometime in June or July, but I'll just give you, if you haven't graduated before, when you go up on the stage at the Wintrust and they hand you the diploma, it's empty. They mail it to you later. All right. So if you want to hang around, you want to make a movie, we can make that happen. Just, reach out to, basically, I guess, reach out to me for the undergrads. And if you're a grad student, or at least in the MFA program, reach out to Dan if you're on the production side.
Thank you for sharing all of that. I think that in response to what John was saying, there are definitely a lot of silver linings that a lot of students are appreciative of and are looking for and working to keep building community. One thing that a lot of people have been talking about, which I know isn't in the hands of CDM faculty, is about how with buildings closing and everything, the university is going to be saving like a lot of money on a lot of different things because of just like the shutdowns is what a lot of people have been talking about. I see Rob shaking his head, regardless of whether
that is not true. That is not true in any way whatsoever. Buildings are still there. All of these things still cost money. And let me tell you, all of the teachers that are prepping these classes, this takes us 4 to 5 times more time, and we're not being paid a cent more. I spent 70 hours last week prepping my classes, and normally I would spend maybe 30 hours. A lecture that I talk an hour, now takes 7, 10, 15 hours to do because I'm dialogue editing because I'm a nerd, you know, and I can't say that it's going to be sounding good. So this whole concept that DePaul's saving money is not true. It is
Thank you for
not
bringing
true
that
at
up.
all. The sucky part is we've got all this equipment laying out, and it's not doing anything. You know, it's just laying there. But one thing we have been talking about, and this is no promise, and this is not like this is going to happen anytime soon, but when things sort of get normal, anybody who teaches a production class, for example, I've got a graduate sound design class right now. Once things are normal, of course, I'm going to go to my students and say, hey, we didn't get a chance to go into the sound studios. So I'm going to book a time where we can all go in to make sure that you get that training. So it's not like every class is going to be this way, but understand that we are highly aware that we don't want our students missing certain things. We want to be able to take care of that. We just don't know when it's going to happen.
Dana,
I
did you want to
appreciate
speak to
that.
this as well?
Yeah, I mean, we're the cinematography people are all feeling that too. That we want you guys to be able to set up the lights, set up the cameras, and all that. And you know, we don't know what the future holds, but we're committed to making sure that if we can, that we will be setting up workshops that people can attend to, to go over the cameras with me and Pete, to set up lights, to be on the stage, to go through all that in real life. That is, as much as we can predict that, we're going to make that happen. So and that's on our own time, like Rob said.
If
All
I
right.
could just say one more thing on the topic, just because I want to voice so that you guys know that what a lot of students are talking about is like part of the reason that we want the administrator email, and we know that we're not a special case, that this is happening throughout universities, throughout the country and the world. But students are talking a lot about how we're in a very unique situation where professors should be getting paid a lot more, and some people think that students should be paying less. So I just wanted to make it clear that that's something that students are really appreciative of what you guys have been doing to adapt. And I really appreciate too what Gary was saying about giving us those information updates, just because it's something that's information, like you're saying, is being thrown at us from every single angle. So there's a lot of things that we're missing. But I really appreciate all the answers to the last question. I think that it'll clarify a lot of things for a lot of people.
I want to also add, and Rob mentioned this before, but just to reiterate, as you're talking about what you are getting right now, while we all have to stay at home and we're all having to contain ourselves and figure out what to do, there are all of these tools that are now available to you that were not available before, that the school has made available, like I think Avid and Adobe, and just having the Zoom access. And a lot of that obviously had to happen in order to have classes be online. But if you can take advantage of this time where you have all of this unlimited access to software that you probably won't have for free when you're out in the real world, it's a really great time to start noodling with that stuff, just like you would have a camera, when you were at CineSpace. And I wanted to throw out there to Gary and the team here, there had been one more question that came up about, is there any talk about summer or fall quarter classes being affected by this if the student is not, my regular classes, if the situation is not contained or improving in the next few months?
Yeah, there is talk. The plan is right now to avoid what we had in the spring, right? Which is like within 2 weeks having to do a 180. The plan is for summer classes to be online, right? That is not for necessarily social distancing reasons. It's just so students are not getting thrown a curveball at the last minute saying that class you were going to take, it's in the loop, is now going to be online. The classes that we traditionally, at least in terms of SCA, the classes we traditionally offer during the summer are online friendly classes. They're theory criticism, lecture classes, some intro screenwriting classes have been taught over the summer, and they've already been taught in the past as online classes. So those would be the classes in the summer. But yeah, the plan for the summer right now is the classes will be online, more just to avoid any last minute changes, unexpected changes, so the students know what to expect. The plan in the fall is to basically be back to normal, but again, we don't have on a certain level control over that. As you know, in my spare time between Zoom meetings and emails, I watch CNN, and what I've heard Dr. Fauci say, who's one of the people at those briefings that I actually will listen to, has said, you know, the virus dictates the timeline, right? And that's something to keep in mind, is that we are, you know, making these plans, but in the end, that could change. But the plan as of now is fall will be back to normal.
Great. I think that's all we have for student questions, so we can pass it off to whoever's next. Dan?
Actually, I'm looking at a couple things that came in. I think I've already answered this. Pete was asking, can we extend access to gear to all students affected by this loss of access? And I mentioned that over the summer, we would provide gear access to students. Again, whether they're current students who want to have gear access or students who were supposed to graduate in June, we could figure a way to make that happen. The other one, John, you want to say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I want to be very conscious of, right now, the way that our system works is that the summers are dedicated to the MFA theses, and they're right in the first step of their pre-production, and we know that they're going to be thrown a curveball. So while we are going to do our best to be flexible and to try to accommodate as much as we can to catch up, there is going to be a little bit of a priority there. And I just don't want there to be a misconception of, okay, we've been given the all clear sign, I want to come and reserve X, Y, and Z, because it's going to take a little bit of figuring out to make sure that we're doing this in the right sequence of events.
Yeah, I mean, when I was responding to gear access, I was just gear in general. Again, the higher end gear, we have limited amount of that, but if somebody wanted a C100, a light kit and tripod, I mean, we've got a fair amount of those. So it depends on specifics.
Cool. I'm just going to jump in here and kind of kick it back to Juliana and Liv, kind of regarding some initiatives that the heads of the DCC are proposing for this spring. And in advance, I just wanted to mention to all the people that have been on YouTube watching this thus far, I appreciate the questions that you're asking and the degree to which you care about this. I'll just be reiterating what you've heard many times over, is that we care so much about you guys and your experience, and it really drives us to do all of this. So, even after this meeting ends, if there's something that strikes you and you wish that you'd ask that question, or you feel that the question wasn't answered well enough or sufficiently, like, follow up with us. We'll try to get you the answer from the appropriate people. And as you've heard time and time again, like, we are in this with you. So bear with us if it takes a minute, but we're going to continue doing it for you. So let me kick it back to Juliana and Liv.
Yeah, so that's actually one of the things I wanted to talk about. Was some of these questions obviously need more time, but the DCC would like to be some kind of middle person for a virtual conversation. So whether that means we're going to do like an Instagram live or just a Zoom meeting to just try and get more student feedback, to take care of lingering questions and continue open communication between students and faculty. We're planning to do that sometime in the next week, and we will put the information for that on Facebook, Instagram, SCA Central. So just try and keep up with that so we can get all of your lingering questions. And then the second thing I wanted to go over was the DCC created a resource list that was compiled by a bunch of different students, and anyone can add to it. It's just a Google Doc, and we're going to be posting that everywhere that we can. And it's just a resource list of like ways you can stay active with like filmmaking, or take care of yourself, or just get more experience even though you're going to be at home. So yeah, that resource list we will be posting everywhere, and we'll send it out in the minutes as well.
Cool. And so I just have 2 points to bring up as well. On behalf of the mentorship committee, now more than ever might be one of the most important times to be getting involved in this community and building these relationships between students. We've sent out emails to our mentors and mentees, but I just want to encourage people that if you aren't a part of the program and you're interested, we'll put this in the minutes, but it's dcc.student.mentorship@gmail.com. We have been brainstorming, like Juliana said, a bunch of ways that students can stay active in the community, and that's something that's been really strong flowing through the mentorship committee as well. Another thing was kind of mentioned earlier. There is a student-run film festival that we were just made aware of about an hour ago. Is called Word of Mouth Community Quarantine Film Festival, and it's being run by one student who is a current DePaul student and one who graduated, Montes Motakaitis and Joshua Knoll. What the film festival is about is making a film of any genre at around 5 minutes long, and you have a week to do it. So this you submit it by April 9th at 8 p.m. Central Time, and then there's going to be a screening on April 10th at 7 p.m. Central Time, and every single film that's submitted will be screened. So this is a great way to just kind of jumpstart your creativity during this crazy time, as well as building community and making new connections and getting your work seen by other students at DePaul. What's really cool about this festival is that it's also been having a reach outside of our DePaul community. So there are people who are sending it to everyone, friends across the country, whatever, and just kind of challenging each other to push forward and make something. Like Dana was saying earlier, if you don't feel like being creative right now, that's totally okay. But if you're looking for something to do, this is something that could be really cool. Everyone who submits gets invited, gets screened, and the way that you enter it, if you go on Facebook and search Word of Mouth Community Quarantine Film Festival, we'll put all of this in the meeting notes. All you do is mark going, and they tell you how to submit everything, but it'll be super cool and create a lot of community and get your work shown. So keep an eye out for that in the minutes.
I'm so sorry to do this, but I just realized there's another announcement that I forgot to mention, which is that the DePaul Society of Cinematographers is hosting a union panel with several DePaul alumni and people who work in the industry right now. It's going to be held online via a Zoom meeting on Friday, April 10th. So that's coming up at 2 p.m. Central Standard. We'll send all of this in the meeting minutes, but it looks like it's going to be really cool because obviously a lot of people aren't going to be working. So if you're interested in tuning in for that, you definitely should. And talk to Nahal if you need more details. We'll put his email. He's actually making the minutes, so he can put his email in there, Nahal. And the last thing is we got a YouTube comment saying, could we start a document with students who may be in Chicago over the summer who would like to film, listing their crew, skills, all of that. We would love to do that as the DCC. So whoever you are, just email us personally at the DCC email, and we would love to make that happen.
Is there anybody else that wants to do anything from this group right now?
The only thing I would do is just to reiterate one of the things I mentioned at the top, which is if you have concerns, questions, reach out to us. Let us know what's going on. It's the only way we can address any of the issues, and we will do whatever we can to address them. Again, we're all in this together, and we all want everyone to succeed under these unexpected circumstances. And I will get an answer to the question about who to talk to raise your concerns about the tuition. I'll get you that by Monday. All right. So I don't know if you want to hold on the meeting minutes until Monday, but I will definitely get you an answer on Monday.
Great. Well, thank you so much again to everybody that was watching via YouTube, and certainly to this group. And it can't be said enough. Thank the heads of the DCC, represented tonight by Juliana and Liv, but really over a dozen people that have been working very hard on behalf of the entire student community, and frankly for all of it. And I'm very grateful. And those of you that are out there that are interested in being involved in the Heads of the Sea, please reach out. These guys will help to get you all the information that you need. So without further ado, thank you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Taylor. You did a great job.
Yes. Thank you, Travis. Thank you so much. Agreed.
And
Thank
go heat up a frozen pizza for old time's sake.
Oh, right. Exactly. Hartwell's tonight. So be thankful for that. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.